Dubro Suspicion Files.
Okay, let's get right into this. We're going to be talking about a really dark and complex story that came out of Dalian, China.
So we're going to start with a question that, for years, pretty much haunted the Chinese internet. What's the connection between a beloved TV anchor who just vanished without a trace and this incredibly shocking exhibit? A real human body, preserved in plastic, and put on display for millions of people to see.
All right, first, let's talk about Zhang Weijie. Back in the 1990s, in the booming city of Dalian, she was a huge deal, a total household name. She was the face of the city's modern up-and-coming image, super articulate, photogenic, the host of a really popular TV show.
Now flash forward a few years. This anonymous, preserved body, a real pregnant woman, part of a touring exhibition, suddenly becomes the center of this wild online theory. The theory? That this body was Zhang Weijie. And the craziest part? The moment people started asking questions, it seemed like every official record of the anchor herself just, poof, vanished.
To really wrap your head around how a person could be so completely erased, you've got to understand the kind of absolute power that was held by the city's ruling couple.
On one side, you have Bo Xilai. He was what they call a red princeling, the charismatic son of a Communist Party legend. He was the guy who built modern Dalian, and he was absolutely obsessed with its image. And then you have his wife, Bo Xilai. She was the formidable enforcer in the shadows, a powerful lawyer often described as an unforgiving empress who would do anything to protect their power. And here's where these two stories collide, big time. According to a lot of different reports, Zhang Weijie became Bo Xilai's mistress, and she was pregnant with his child. Now, this wasn't just some messy personal drama. In the high-stakes world of the Chinese elite, an illegitimate child is a huge political problem. It's a vulnerability. And for someone like Bo Xilai, it was a threat that she was absolutely not going to tolerate.
So here's the crucial part. Zhang Weijie didn't just quit her job. She was systematically wiped from existence. Sometime around 1998, she just disappeared. There was no final show, no official announcement. Her employee files were purged. Archives of her shows suddenly became impossible to find, and even saying her name became taboo. This wasn't a quiet resignation. This had all the fingerprints of a state-sanctioned operation.
And believe it or not, the story gets even darker. Because right around the exact same time that Zhang Weijie vanished, a brand new and deeply disturbing industry started to take root in Dalian. And it was sanctioned by the very same people in power.
You have to look at the timing here because it is everything. In a single month, August 1999, 3 critical things happened all at once. First, a massive nationwide crackdown on the Falun Gong spiritual group began, which flooded labor camps with prisoners. Then, a German anatomist opened a huge body processing factory right there in Dalian. And finally, Bo Xilai's government conveniently passed new rules making it super easy for the police to supply unclaimed bodies to these new factories. It was like they created the perfect storm for a truly macabre supply chain.
So this new industry needed a constant, steady supply of fresh cadavers. We're talking bodies that had to be processed within 24 to 48 hours of death. The numbers they needed were way, way higher than the city's normal rate of unclaimed deaths from, natural causes. So the question is obvious, where were they all coming from?
Well, the horrifying answer came out in a leaked email. In 2001, a factory owner was literally boasting about getting fresh examples killed by a shot to the head this morning. This wasn't just a rumor. This was basically confirmation that they were getting bodies directly from China's execution grounds.
And the sheer scale of this was just staggering. By 2004, one factory alone had 647 whole human bodies in storage. Under Bo Xilai, Dalian had become the world's capital for processing human remains for profit. It's unbelievable.
So this entire system, this whole grisly operation, ran with total impunity for over a decade. And it probably would have just kept going if it wasn't for the fact that the power couple's own paranoia eventually caused their entire empire to come crashing down.
And it all happened incredibly fast. Bo Xilai murdered a British associate who she thought was a threat to her son. When her own police chief, a guy named Wang Lejun, started looking into it, Bo Xilai confronted him, slapped him, and demoted him. Wang, fearing for his life, made a mad dash to the American consulate, carrying a load of evidence that would bring down one of China's most powerful political families. But
And this is a huge but. When Bo and Gunn were finally put on trial, the official story was very selective. They were charged with corruption and murder. There was absolutely no mention of the body factories, no mention of organ harvesting, and certainly no mention of the disappearance of Zhang Weijie. It's like they surgically removed the most disturbing pieces to contain the scandal and protect a wider system.
So after Bo's fall from grace, Chinese netizens started connecting the dots themselves. The timing and the location, a perfect fit. Zhang disappeared in Dalian right when the factory opened. She was reportedly pregnant, just like the specimen. And, if you think about it, a person who is disappeared by the state would officially become an unclaimed body. The factory owner even gave these really vague answers about the body's identity that made it seem like he knew more than he was saying. It all pointed to the ultimate, horrifying act of erasure, hiding a body in plain sight.
So, what does this all really mean? The scandal that brought down Bo Xilai wasn't just about money and murder. It was about a really fundamental, terrifying abuse of power over human life itself. The whole Dalian model is a chilling, real-world example of something called biopolitics. It's a fancy term, but the idea is simple and scary. It's when the state has such absolute power that it can reduce the human body to just another raw material, a resource to be processed and sold on the international market.
And you have to realize, this wasn't just the work of one rogue family. It was an entire ecosystem of complicity, a twisted public-private partnership where the police supplied the bodies, a local university gave it all a stamp of academic legitimacy, and private companies did the processing for global export. It was a supply chain that turned death into profit.
And maybe the most chilling part of all is the paradox we see today. The government's intense, ongoing effort to scrub this entire story from the internet, to censor search terms like Zhang Weijie and Dalian body factory, is seen by many people as the strongest evidence that it's all true.
So the story of the missing anchor and the body factory leaves us with this really haunting question. We may never know for sure if that specimen is actually Zhang Weijie. But in a way, that's not the point. We know the bodies came from somewhere. We know this system existed. So when the evidence of such horrors is hidden right there, in plain sight, who is responsible for looking away?